Warning, Tongue and Geek contains heavy spoilers. If you haven't read, watched, or played the content being reviewed this episode, know that we will definitely spoil major plot points. Also, this show isn't for kids. We use words like and it would take too much time and effort to edit them all out. Please don't tell our moms. Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to Tongue and Geek, where two more white guys on the internet give their unsolicited opinions on all things geeky. I'm Isaac.
I'm Tyler.
And today we're talking about the Pokémon Adventures manga, written by Hidenori Kusaka and art by Mato. We'll be talking about the Red, Green, and Blue arc, which covers the first 3 volumes, or 40 chapters of the manga, up to Red and Blue's battle in the Pokémon League Championships. Tyler, you want to give us some background?
Background is pertaining to what exactly?
Tyler, god damn it. I have asked you for the background in every single episode, and every single episode you have been wildly unprepared.
It's almost like this is a bit at this point.
Oh my god. It's so funny how the audience has to watch us blunder through trying to explain what this series is.
Okay, well, I do know a little bit about it.
Okay.
Pokemon Adventures is called Pocket Monster Special in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not the first manga that's based off Pokemon.
Nope.
But it's the most popular, I'm assuming, because it's made its way over to the States, to the West.
It's the longest running of them, I think.
It's more in line with the games than the anime. So
yeah,
there's that. So if you want to read a Pokemon manga and you're thinking you're going to have an Ash adventure, no, you're not going to have an Ash adventure. You're going to have a Red adventure, as in the red guy from the games.
Mario.
Yes, there you follow a middle-aged Italian plumber as he travels from Pallet Town and tries to catch them all.
Yeah.
Yahoo!
Go, Pikachu! Just a reminder, not for the audience, but for Tyler, Wikipedia exists. You can look up all this information beforehand.
Yes, that's very true. I forgot.
I'm going to just throw those things out real quick. So this was published by Shogakukan, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm going to mess up all of these names. It was published by them in Japan and by Viz Media in the US. Viz Media re-released it, new translations in 2009. The original run of this was from March 1997 to May 1998 for this specific arc that we're covering. In the US, it was released from 99 to 2001, which is interesting because the manga predates the anime in Japan. So the Pokemon Adventures manga is older than the anime in Japan, but it was released in the US after the anime came out in the US. So US audiences were already familiar with the anime when this manga was released. This manga was also endorsed by the creator of Pokemon, Satoshi Tajiri. He said that this is the comic that most resembles the world I was trying to convey.
I knew that. I should have had that for my background.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have some notes for background because you're the background guy.
Let me jot that down. I am the background. Yes.
I wrote that with ketchup on a napkin, and I will throw it away after this podcast.
Not even that. I air wrote it on an air notepad that's exists in a different plane of existence.
I hate you.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
I know you don't.
Yeah. We've talked about the series background. What's your personal background with Pokemon in general, Tyler?
With Pokemon in general, it's pretty typical for, I guess, people our age. I was at the prime age when it hit the States in the 90s. I first got turned on to the cards because everybody in school starting to get the cards. I'm like, well, these are freaking awesome. I want them. So I started collecting the cards. I had a binder like everybody else, and I never played the card game. I'm absolutely terrible at any sort of tabletop / board game kind of dealy. So like I never took the time to just learn it, even though I know it's supposed to be incredibly easy. I was just content collecting the cards, just looking at the cards, admiring the cards, reading the cards, and then
there was always the card game also had those fucking like energy cards, and it's like, who gives a shit? It's like,
every time I had one of those in a pack, I was just like,
you throw them away, and it's like, you technically need them to play the game, but it's like, fuck these things. Who wants an energy card when I can get my shiny Charizard?
And to be honest, like, I honestly don't remember, because, I mean, everybody had them. I don't remember seeing too many games. Like, I might have seen maybe 2 card games played, like, in my entire Pokemon career as a child. So, most everybody, I think, was just into collecting the cards, the video games, and the anime.
Yeah.
The anime hit the airs. I loved it. Watched it for a while. I never had a Game Boy really, or any kind of handheld systems when I was a kid. So I didn't get my hands on the games until I was a little older.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only one I ever played completely, fully was Blue. And I think I played a little bit of Yellow.
Yeah.
But other than that, my interest waned, as things do when you're a kid. But for a time in the 90s when it was big, I was all into it like everybody else. And that's about it.
Yeah. So what brought you back to the Pokemon manga?
What brought me back to it was, I guess I was in a nostalgic mood. And I don't know specifically how I got the nugget in my head to be like, I want to get into this. I was just, I know what it was. It was me. Well, I know you name dropped it before, but it was Detective Pikachu, and a couple years before that when Pokemon Go hit. Yeah. When Pokemon Go hit, that like really hit the warm fuzzies in me. I was like, oh, I missed this. This was fun. This is that united the world for a spell there when that came out.
For a hot minute, the world was happy.
I revisited the anime a little bit when that came out, and I think I borrowed one of the games from you to play a little bit when that came out. Mm-hmm. I was just kind of looking up the lore, see what I missed, see what I wanted to catch up on. Yeah. And I heard, like, this one manga, Pokémon Adventures, is supposed to be really good. I'm like, oh, I should read that. And, it was always in the back of my head, but I never did until, just recently. I'm like, screw it. You have the opportunity to read it, so just read it. Yeah. And now we're here.
You've been on a manga kick, too, recently, so...
I have.
Yeah. So, my background with Pokemon, I guess, is very similar to yours. I grew up with the games and the anime. I think I saw the anime first, because I was right at that age where it was just, like, hitting its full stride when I was just a little kid. And then, like, I begged my mom for a copy of Yellow because it, like, added a few little details that made you closer to, like, the anime version. Like, you got Pikachu as your starter instead of, like, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. Although you could get them, too. You had, like, the Team Rocket version from the anime following you around. Like, it just added, like, a few narrative details that made it a little closer to the anime, even though it was still basically the same core game as Red and Blue. I always loved the anime. I watched all the movies. I watched the anime through Johto, I think, is when I stopped watching, which was in the early 2000s. And it's funny, because I loved Pokemon. I played through Yellow dozens of times as a kid, but I never bought any of the later games in the series for a long time. I didn't get Generation 2. I didn't get Gen 3. I skipped over them entirely, and it wasn't necessarily because, like, I grew out of Pokemon. Like, I still loved Pokemon as a franchise. There definitely was that point, like, later in middle school and stuff, but, like, I would have been able to play Gen 2 and Gen 3 well before then. Like, I was still in late elementary school when Gen 3 dropped, I think. But for some reason, I just never wanted to play any other Pokemon games besides Yellow, because Yellow was the one that was kind of like the anime. And I was so attached to the anime that it's like, I don't want to separate from Pikachu and all this. It's like, I was just stubborn and didn't want to do anything besides the anime closest version, which was dumb, but kids are dumb. But then, like, mid-high school, I think, after I kind of dropped Pokemon, I was like, oh, I'm too old for Pokemon for a while. There were some people that I knew that were like, man, the new Pokemon game's great. And I'm like, can't believe people are still playing Pokemon, but I guess it's still going. And I just randomly decided...
Oh, is it ever?
Yeah, I just decided to pick up a copy of I think actually I picked Soul Silver. I picked that up when it came out, and I fucking fell right back in love with this franchise because, like, Soul Silver was a great Pokemon game. It was like a remake of the Johto Gen 2 games, which like I said, I'd never played, but it gave, like, all of the great elements of Pokemon. It's probably still maybe my favorite Pokemon game is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's definitely the one that I put the most hours into. And with that, I started playing the newer games. I played through, like, Gen 4. I went back and played Gen 3. I don't think I ever actually played Gen 2 just because I was so attached to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And Gen 2 is just, like, the older version of those games. And it felt like a backward step to replay that. But I went back and played a bunch of the games, and I've been playing Pokemon since. I've got some problems with the mainline games, especially in later versions. I feel like it's really starting to hit the point where it's stale. People have been calling Pokemon stale and, like, out of ideas for a long time now. Basically, since Generation 3 hit, people have been making those criticisms. But I think those criticisms are becoming more valid, not necessarily in, like, the Pokemon designs themselves, although I do have some problems with them in general, but more in the, like, gameplay elements. It's just getting very repetitive, very basic. They're cutting a lot of corners that they don't need to. Like, this is the biggest media franchise in the world, and they're cutting corners on costs that, like, no AAA developer should be doing this, you know? Like, these games should be a lot higher quality than they are. But enough about the games. The anime I watched a lot as a kid. I stopped watching when I got older. I went back and revisited a few times, and it's nostalgic. It's nice, but it's not like I'm not hooked into the anime. I haven't watched the later seasons. Like I said, I watched through, like, Johto as a kid, and that's about... I have revisited the earliest seasons, like season 1 and such, but, like, I've not gone too far back and revisited. I picked up the manga in late high school, and I read through volume 7, which is, like, the end of the Yellow arc, basically the end of the Generation 1 stuff. And I really liked it then. I remember reading the manga and being like, holy shit, this is, like, so much different than the anime, but also, even though it's technically closer to the games, it's very different from the games as well. It's like this whole different story, this whole different version of the Pokemon world. And, yeah, I just really loved it then, and I kind of just put it down for a long time. I found, like, the collector's editions at Book of Semillion a while back, and I purchased, like, the first 3 of them, which I think goes through the Yellow arc again. And then you told me that you wanted to read this, and here we are. I was like, yeah, I'll go back through this one. It'll be great.
And here we are. When I was back on my nostalgia kick with the franchise, thanks to Detective Pikachu and Pokemon Go, I was like, oh, I'll watch the anime again. And it's fun to go back and watch a little bit of, but it's just one of those things from childhood that the rose tint kind of fades, and it just doesn't hold up to your memory, at least for me. So
it's got moments.
I can watch it. It does. It has moments. It has its charms, but just through adult eyes, it just doesn't have that same magic. It's just like, I want Ash to shut up. I want Ash to just be better at things.
Yeah.
As an adult, I would only want to watch cute Pokemon in color doing cute Pokemon things. And you're a little bit younger than me. Yeah. So how old were you when the first movie came out in theaters?
Oh, what year was that? Let me check.
I think it was 1999.
I would have been 4.
Christ almighty.
Yeah, you're an old man.
Oh, that's disgusting.
I'm a 95 baby.
Shit. I was only about 10 then, so it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, sure.
But shut up. But till this day, seeing the Pokemon movie in theaters is one of my most indelible theater-going experiences. I remember it so vividly. Like, this was, like, crazy, the height of... You know what? Let me look up when it came out, because I think I might have the year wrong. I don't want to be the guy on the podcast talking about a thing and getting the fucking information.
It was definitely before the year 2000, because the second movie is Pokemon 2000.
Pokemon the movie...
I
don't want the reboot.
99 sounds correct, too, just because, like, the anime was already moving towards Johto at that point.
It came out in Japan in 1998. Give me the American release.
That's the only one we care about, America.
Broadcast airing, homie. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not giving me the American release, but I'm pretty sure it was. Yep, 1999, November 1999.
Yep.
I had it right.
There you go.
Oh, I'm good. Anyway, everybody was so hyped for it at school, and like one of the only times there was ever any organization with like my peers and like parents and stuff was planning this huge get together to take a bunch of us to go see the Pokemon movie. And it was like, it was so awesome. It was a theater packed full of kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure every adult there was absolutely miserable. just sitting there like, what is this bullshit? Like that like 20-minute opening short with like Meryl and stuff that has nothing to do with the movie. I was just like, extra stuff that's not like the movie. This is amazing.
With like Snorlax and the Cubone and stuff. Yeah, I remember that cute little intro.
And it reminds me of that old Robot Chicken skit where it's like a Squirtle and a Pikachu just like Squirtle, Pika Pika, and they're doing it back and forth for a couple seconds, and like Squirtle like breaks character and he's like, okay, what is this? What is this nonsense? This is absolute garbage. Read a book. do something else with your time.
Oh boy.
So I'm sure that's exactly what every one of our parents was thinking.
Oh yeah, there's like, shit, stop saying your own name.
I can't believe we spent so much money on this just now.
Yeah.
But I still like the first movie. I can still watch that movie and 2000 and the third one. I can still watch all three of those.
I like all three of the movies. I would argue that the third one is actually like a decent film. Like even disregarding it as like a Pokemon movie, it's like a decent film because Ash isn't the protagonist. Like he's just kind of there, and like this little girl who lost her father is sort of the protagonist.
Who is instantly more sympathetic and likable than Ash is throughout like 25 years of anime history.
Yeah. That girl gets 60 minutes and she's more interesting.
Now, as an adult, like I'm more of just a fan of Pokemon, the individual creatures, than the world or the games or anything. Like, right?
Well, that's always been the huge appeal of Pokemon is that there's all these little monsters that you can collect and, train and everything, and that's what draws people in. It's not like the gameplay, it's not the like world building or the lore, it's the fact that like, oh man, I got a Charizard, or oh, Mewtwo's so cool, or those kind of things is what made Pokemon into the world's biggest media franchise.
I'm going to make a declarative statement. I don't care that I've only played a few of the games. I don't care that I haven't followed the franchise in any capacity since my childhood. But Bulbasaur is the best Pokemon. And he's the best starter. I don't care how many thousands of other Pokemon have been introduced since Bulbasaur. He is forever the best.
We should really throw out our best favorite Pokemon real quick. Bulbasaur's your number one. Do you have a 2 and 3? You have a top 3?
Yeah, I'm so boring, and like everybody's going to peg me as soon as I start saying this is like that guy, but because I came up in Gen 1, like Gen 1's pretty much all I know and have all the affection for.
Gen 1ers.
For a second, for a while, I was kind of like, what's all these new ones? Ew, I don't like them. Like, it's 151 and that's it. But there are a lot of newer ones that I've seen that I really like. But I absolutely adore Bulbasaur and all of his evolutions. Yeah. I love Mew. I love Mew to death. He's the most adorable little godly creature that has existed. Mewtwo is an angsty boy, and I love him. I love Sandshrew and Sandslash. Psyduck and Golduck are also up there. Kabutops. Nobody seems to love Kabutops, but as far as like bipedal Pokemon with like razor arms, there's like Kabutops and Scyther, and everybody seems to like Scyther more, but I like Kabutops more. Gyarados.
Gyarados is cool.
Just I could name at least 50 of the 151 originals that are like I absolutely adore. Yeah, but I will let you have the floor.
I was just gonna just limiting myself to Generation 1 Pokemon, because I've played the other games. I have Pokemon outside of Gen 1 that I love. but just limiting myself to Gen 1. My absolute favorite Pokemon, just out of all of them, not even just Gen 1, is Arcanine. I just love the, like, tiger/dog design there. He's, like, based on, like, Chinese food dogs. Just a badass fire-type Pokemon. Like, also just designed around this aspect of, like, loyalty and, like, being a loyal partner, which just fits with the theme of Pokemon of, like, you take on a team of your loyalist companions to take on the world. And, like, I just love Arcanine. Close second to Arcanine, I would say, is Lapras. I think Lapras is maybe the best designed Pokemon in the entire franchise.
Yep.
Just because
it's up there on my list, too. Love Lapras.
It hits that perfect level of, like, unique but simplistic. Like, it's a plesiosaur with, like, a spiky shell on its back. And a lot of Pokemon, a lot of newer Pokemon especially, are over-designed. They have these really complicated, complex looks that are hard to follow, and they're just not as iconic. And then on the opposite end, you get Pokemon like Voltorb and Electrode that are literally just a ball, and it's like there's nothing to fall in love with there. I think Lapras is that perfect middle ground of, like, simplistic yet unique, and I just love Lapras. Just got this majestic look to it. It's always got this smug-ass grin on its face.
You know, I never really taken it as smug as a kid, but I always thought, like, the facial expression they gave Lapras was kind of, like, you know, kind of silly. Like, oh, why is he always smiling like that?
It's
like,
always smiling.
He's got secrets under his shell. That's
Lapras also has a great story arc throughout the series in the games, because in Generation 1 it's endangered, and then by, like, Generation 5 or 6 they have something, it's like it's been brought back from the brink of extinction, and you're just like, oh, thank God!
Yes, because you had me on the edge there when you say they were going extinct. I'm like, no, you can't go on Lapras.
I mean, extinction literally means nothing in the Pokemon universe, because they literally have fossil reviving machines that you can just bring dead Pokemon back to life with, so whatever.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
I'm up on the lore. No, I'm not.
I mean, Kabutops was a fossil Pokemon.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Other Gen 1 Pokemon I love Sandslash, and Sandshrew. I would argue that Sandshrew is the cutest Pokemon, just because of his
so adorable.
Great big blue eyes. He's adorable, and Sandslash takes that cuteness and then just adds some cool spiky elements to it to make it, like, cute and badass. And Eevee is one of my favorite Pokemon, just because of, like, the idea behind it, like, all of this potential, you know, you can evolve it into all these different forms, you know, depending on what kind of Pokemon that you want to build out of it. So, there's a favorite Pokemon list. Should we actually get into the manga now?
But, I will name drop a couple of next gen ones that I know of that I do like, so I'm not just a Gen 1 stan.
Okay.
I love Entei.
Yeah.
And Sharpedo, because I like water types in general, and Sharpedo's a shark, and I love sharks, so I can't go wrong with that.
Which Pokemon were you all obsessing over for a while? Was it fucking Love Disc?
Yeah, Love Disc, the stupid fish thing.
It's just a heart-shaped fish, and you all were just like, this is the best Pokemon! I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Because, like, the stupid, dumb Pokemon that don't look like anything are just, like, the most charming sometimes.
Yeah.
Kind of how, like Magikarp has, like, a whole meme culture around it.
Yeah.
Because it's just a big, dumb fish. And, Garchomp, is that its name? That cool-looking...
yeah, the dragon type.
Yep. So those are some next-gen ones that I like a lot.
Yeah, other gen Pokemon that I like, Togekiss. I really love. It's like the final form of Togepi. I really love that one. That one actually, the reason I love that one so much is because in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can get a Togepi and evolve it into a Togekiss. And when I did that for the very first time, the noise that it made in the game made it sound like it was going Wayne, and I just called it Wayne. And every time I've played through that game since, or every time I've gotten a Togekiss since, I call it Wayne Jr. So, like, the whole...
Togekiss has, like, those wings, right?
Togekiss, yeah, it has wings. It's got these big, like, round, puffy-looking wings. It's just got this cute little simple face. It's just a cute Pokemon that's actually got some decent stats to go along with it. That's fun. Other favorites for me, Aggron. Great big, just metal dinosaur-looking thing, like a blend of a T-Rex and a Triceratops, basically like upright Triceratops. A lot of fun with that one. Metagross, I love Metagross. It's a great big metal spider. It's got Psychic and Steel combined. It's got some great moves. I really like Lucario, which is weird because I'm not a big fan of like the anthro-looking Pokemon, which has unfortunately become sort of a trend recently where they just have like Pokemon that look like a lot more humanoid. But I think Lucario, I give a pass on this one just because A, he was one of the earlier ones to kind of do this, and B, his design is just very cool. He's got like a Zorro mask sort of look. He's got like this whole aura aesthetic about him that's interesting and fun. I like Lucario, even though I'm not a big fan of the anthro Pokemon trope that's become unfortunately pretty common in recent generations.
We're 1,000, right?
I don't think we've quite hit 1,000. Let's check.
Because for these developers that continually just come up with designs, it's got to be just at this point absolutely nerve wracking. Like, oh god, there's only so many shapes and sizes and colors we can make these things.
Yeah.
Oh, I also really love that cool looking whale thing.
898.
Okay, I thought there was more than that.
Nope. Just
what's that cool whale one that has like the big flappers?
Whale Lord? Or are you talking about Kyogre?
I think it's Kyogre.
Kyogre's the legendary Pokemon. Whale Lord's just a whale. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Kyogre. He's pretty badass.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to be talking about a manga.
Yeah, we've talked for like 30 minutes without actually getting to the manga itself. Let's get to that.
Okay. All the big podcasts, they have like 20, 30 minutes of preamble before they even get to the main subject.
Yeah. We're not even going to talk about the manga. That was a setup.
No, we're going to pivot. We're going to talk about the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, and how Pokemon led to or actually how the Revolutionary War led to Pokemon.
Well, it was fought with Pokemon. They don't teach you that.
They don't teach you that in school. Actually, to pivot a little bit, there was a theory early on, like when Generation 1 was out, that like before the events of Red and Blue, there was a Pokemon War that was fought, and that was a really popular theory because they like mentioned it in games, like Lieutenant Surge, who's like the electric Pokemon trainer, like they said like he fought in the war. It's like, what war are you talking about? Like you have people been using
war, you know?
Yeah. He was also called the Lightning American in the original games, which is very confusing.
The Lightning American.
Yes. The Pokemon
sounds like a mad wrestler.
Well, also it confirms that the Pokemon world is just our world, which is a big deal. So, yeah, Pokemon lore is confusing. Let's get into the manga. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, general story plots. I'm not going to do too much of a recap because this is more of an episodic story. It's a little hard to go through everything that happens. But we follow Red.
So much happens.
Yeah. We follow Red, who is the protagonist, as he's in Pallet Town. He's sort of like a big fish in a small pond trainer. He's got himself a Pokemon. What I think is interesting about this version of Red is that he didn't get his first Pokemon from Professor Oak. He just caught like a Poliwhirl and like has a Pokemon on his own before he even decides to like set out on the full journey, which is cool because it sets up like this whole like, he's a little cocky because, you know, he's in this small town where nobody else really does the Pokemon Gym Leader Challenge, but he's already got himself a Pokemon even without having to get a starter. But he sets off on a journey to collect all the gym badges, take on the Pokemon League just in the games. Along the way, he's challenged by his rival Blue, who is the grandson of Professor Oak. And he encounters the villainous Team Rocket, who is trying to capture Pokemon and take over the whole world through the power of Pokemon, specifically legendaries, like the legendary birds and Mewtwo, which they've created. That's the general plot. A lot of stuff happens along the way that we can get into as we go. Do we want to talk about maybe some plot differences and some character differences between, like, Red and Ash?
Yeah, let's get the whole Red Ash out of the way.
Yeah.
Ash sucks. I think even like huge Pokemon fans can agree that Ash kind of sucks. I think that's kind of like an in-joke with the fandom, is that Ash is just kind of bleh.
Well, why do we like Red more than Ash?
I think we like Red more than Ash is because, one, we read his dialogue. We don't have to hear it.
Yeah.
And he's not as whiny as Ash tends to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as naive as Ash tends to be. He's just... Red is like a hyper-competent protagonist, which is kind of a flaw in and of itself. But it makes for a more entertaining story to follow a protagonist who knows what he's doing. And, like, because there's a lot of... Pretty much every huge, like, sticky situation he gets in, like... he comes up with some out-of-the-box solution to get out of.
Yeah.
Which, that's probably one of my favorite aspects of him, is that he's kind of like a Pokemon genius.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, he could, like, read situations, like, 3 steps ahead and, like, plan it out and, like, implement it, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, what's interesting about Red is that, I don't know necessarily that I'd call him hyper-competent, but he is very ingenious with his... strategies with Pokemon. Like, he may not necessarily know everything about Pokemon. He may not know, like, all of their abilities or all of the different Pokemon out there. At least not yet. He's learning along his journey. But he's able to come up with these very clever and creative ways of using their abilities in order to defeat opponents that are stronger or more experienced than him. Because, like, he's using them in ways that they've never been used before. One example is he's being attacked by Lieutenant Surge, who has this rubber-insulated suit and is using a bunch of electric Pokemon to basically shock Red and his Pokemon to death, almost. And he uses his Bulbasaur's Razor Leaf to not only cut through, like, the electrical wiring that is, like, connecting all of the electric Pokemon together, but also to cut through the rubber suit so that it would shock Lieutenant Surge. And just, like, creative moments like that, like, allow Red to shine as he's not necessarily the most skilled or experienced trainer, but he's got this creativity to how he uses his Pokemon's abilities that sets him apart from everyone else.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Speaking of that Lieutenant Surge thing, I found it funny that the translation, he says underwear, like, oh, special underwear! Like, as long as I'm wearing this underwear, I can't be shocked!
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny.
So yeah, that's what I like about Red. Personality-wise, he is a little one-note, which is fine for this, because this is clearly like a manga targeted towards younger audiences.
It's very much all ages.
Yeah. His character traits are that he's very compassionate towards his Pokemon, he seeks adventure, sort of, just the generic hero traits. Like, he's kind, but adventurous, he can be a little rude sometimes, but he has a good heart. All of, like, the character traits that you'd expect in a manga protagonist for, like, a young adult or a young audience series. Like, none of it's bad by any means, but it's a little generic, but like, it's better than Ash because at least you get to see Red. This feels like the adventure that you would have if you were playing through the games. Like, this is the character who you played as going through the games. Someone who is willing to take on these big challenges, who's willing to take on the evils of Team Rocket. Like, he's not necessarily the most interesting or complex character, but he's got just enough qualities to make him endearing.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty good summation.
Yeah. You want to talk about Blue, his rival?
Blue. Oh, Blue, you edgy man. Blue is Professor Oak's grandson, and he's, the very obvious sort of opposite of Red. He's stern, and he's cold, and he's calculating, and he only sees, like, Pokemon as just, like, a way to, like, up his skill and become the best. He doesn't treat them with compassion. At first, he doesn't really see them as, like, living things. And throughout the first 40 chapters, they have this rivalry, because Blue's also out there trying to fill the Pokedex for his grandfather and become a Pokemon master. Yeah. And then throughout the course of the 40 chapters, they do this whole thing where, Red and Blue, they learn from each other. Blue learns from Red compassion and caring about the animals and to learn how to open his heart up. And Red learns to, be a bit more, I don't want to say stern, but like disciplined.
Yeah,
I guess
for
he
sure.
learns more discipline.
He
from
learns
Blue.
discipline, and he learns like more strategy, whereas he much more focuses early on with just his sort of like, oh, I've got a random idea that I'm going to try. Like, he actually learns to focus in on his Pokemon skills and develop strategies around them instead of just coming up with random ideas that may or may not work out.
It's a cute little arc that they go through in the first 40 chapters. It's kind of funny because it's an all ages manga. The writing is pretty on the nose at points.
Yeah.
So they're in the league in the final chapters and they're battling each other, and it's not like a tense rivalry battle anymore. It's just like two people who respect each other now, like seeing who can come out on top.
Yeah.
And like Professor Oak is just kind of like narrating like, oh, Red has learned this from my grandson, and my grandson has learned this from Red, and isn't this so amazing? And aw,
it's charming. Like, younger audiences may need that to sort of see like the thematic things going on here.
I'm not knocking it. It's just kind of funny how you, for like pages and pages, narrating the theme that's happening on the page.
Right. I would argue that Blue is not necessarily... He's definitely colder than Red, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's cruel to Pokemon starting out. There are moments early on, like with the Kangaskhan that he's trying to capture, where he sort of doesn't recognize the damage that he's putting on Pokemon. But I wouldn't say he's necessarily cruel. I'd say he's more focused on the idea of being the best, and his notion of the best is through strength. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, I need to like beat my Pokemon into fighting shape. It's more like, we're going to be strict, we're going to develop our skills and hone our skills and strategy and everything. I wouldn't say that he's like necessarily seeing his Pokemon as tools, though, because there's very clearly like a care that he puts for his Pokemon. Like when they first encounter Mew early on, he has his Charmander attack Mew, and then he has his Charmander retreat because he recognizes almost immediately that Mew is way out of his league. Like, he's not going to endanger his Charmander fighting this Mew because he's like, there's no way that Charmander's going to be able to catch this thing. Like, I don't think necessarily Blue is...
Yeah, I didn't read that, though, as him necessarily caring for the well-being of the Pokemon, just more of him, like, understanding the utility of the situation.
I guess. I just don't necessarily think... Like, there's definitely an argument in the games for Blue being a total jackass who doesn't give a shit about his Pokemon, but I don't think this version of Blue is ever necessarily at that point. He definitely learns how to be more open and caring about Pokemon through Red, but I don't think he's ever, like, a total jerk. He's just kind of cold and standoffish and stoic.
Well, there's that whole chapter where they get their Pokeballs mixed up.
Yeah.
And Red has Blue's Pokemon, and Blue has Red's. And it's one of the better chapters because Red's like, these aren't my Pokemon. Why are they so, like, on top of everything? And, like...
they're so good!
Blue's... what? Like, they're, like, marching in unison and stuff like that. Yeah. And he's like, what the hell? And Blue's, like, looking at Red's Pokemon, and they're just, just kind of chilling. They kind of have their own personalities more than Blue's does, and he's like, what does he do with these things? Like, how is he so good when they behave like this?
Yeah There's definitely like more strict strategy with Blue that like we get to see him sort of relax a bit along throughout the story. I don't think he's like ever a total jerk. He's just sort of opposite to Red, and that's good. They make good rivals. They make good opposite ends of the pair. They do learn from each other. They've just got it's a nice storyline seeing these two characters who, even though they're both kind of basic and generic, like they're very much trope characters, but like they're fun trope characters. It's fun seeing them like reach their conclusion in their story.
What about, should we go into the characters that are in the manga as well as the anime, but kind of different?
Yeah, we can talk about them. You want to talk... Before we do that, let's talk about a character who's not in the anime or the games. That's only a manga exclusive. Let's talk about Green. Yeah.
Yes, Green.
So interesting tidbit first about green. Earlier translations of this had blue named green and green named blue. So the female character was named blue and Red's direct rival was named green. And that's because in Japan, the original versions of the game was red and green instead of red and blue. But later translations and then into the West turned blue into green and green to blue. So when we talk about blue in this episode, we're talking about the male character who is Red's direct rival. And when we talk about green, we're talking about the female character.
Okay, good differentiation there. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I think when I first read this, it had them mixed up. And then when I read through this again, I was like, wait, wasn't this character this? But yeah, go ahead. You were going to say something about green.
Yeah, she is my favorite character in the manga so far.
Yeah. Why do you like her?
She's fun. She's the wild card character.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you put her on that alignment chart? Chaotic neutral?
Yeah, definitely chaotic neutral.
She fits a trope just like red and blue, but she's like the plucky kind of cutesy girl who like comes in and like befuddles Red and like knows how to manipulate him.
Yeah, she's very much a manipulative person.
Into doing her bidding.
Yeah.
She's a Pokemon thief. She steals the Pokemans.
Yeah. She's a scammer, a thief. She just does whatever she wants to get by, really.
And she's that kind of character that if you invested in the story, you kind of want to see like the redemption arc.
Yeah.
Like you want to like, oh, can you be good? Can you be part of the good guys now?
Yeah.
And he does.
It's interesting. We kind of see her go back and forth a bit, because there are moments where, like, she'll do something good to help out the team, but then, like, she'll immediately screw over Red by, like, stealing his badges or something, and then, like, then later she'll help fight Team Rocket again, but then, like, later again she'll steal something else. So she kind of goes back and forth between these, like, she's never, like, oh, yeah, I'm truly your guys' total friend, and I'm going to do everything that you guys want, and we're all going to be best buddies and just do everything together. She's always kind of like, I'm going to do my own thing, and it's kind of fun being with you here and then there, but, like, I don't really need to hang out with you all the time, and I'm going to piss you off sometimes because I want your stuff. Yeah,
and she calls Red, like, cute boy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, I think her little crush on Red is genuine. And I think he kind of has a crush on her, but doesn't know what, like, how to deal with that, because he's a manga/anime protagonist.
Yeah, so and a young one.
Completely clueless. I would kind of describe their dynamic as sort of like Batman, Catwoman, Spider-Man, Black Cat.
Yeah, it's very similar.
In that, you know, they have an attraction to each other, but he never knows when she's gonna, you know, turn around and, like, pull a fast one.
Yeah.
So he's always on his toes with her.
He can't tell how much of it's just her playing with him or how much of it's actually genuine.
Yeah, it's a very G-rated sort of Batman, Catwoman's Spider-Man, Black Cat situation dynamic.
It's fun and it's cute, and I like her. I like her team too, because she steals a Squirtle and gets herself a Blastoise out of it, and she also has a Jigglypuff that she uses to fly around, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like a freaking balloon.
Yeah, it just balloons up and she just dangles off of its leg.
Like, I don't remember this being a huge factor in the anime, but people use Pokemon as vehicles so much in this manga. Like, how much of that do you remember being in the anime? Like, I know they, like, will ride, like, bigger ones, like a Lapras or, like, a Dragonite, but...
So, like, in the anime, I think we saw less of it just because of the pacing of the anime, where it was, like, there's a lot more episodes, and a lot of it's just them sort of, like, walking from town to town. There really weren't that many cars or stuff, though, but, like, yeah, you see a lot more of them actually using Pokemon as vehicles, I think, here. Just because, like, they have to get from place to place, and the map is much more closely based on the games.
I just found it kind of funny. We'll probably get into this later, but, like, everybody's kind of, like, aware of, like, the weird, open, like, hypocrisy of the Pokemon world, where, like, it has this, like, treat animals with respect and dignity and compassion theme, but, like, the whole premise of it is that you're pitting these animals against each other.
Yeah, enslavement and dogfighting.
Funny that, like, not only do we battle them like fantasy cockfighting, but we're also using them as vehicles and beasts of burden. Like, It's just funny.
Yeah, the whole ethics of Pokemon has been, and we're going to talk about this later. We've got a segment later that we're going to do, but like the whole ethics of the Pokemon world is fucked because it's literally just based on enslavement and dogfighting. And this is an aside from the actual manga, but what pisses me off is that Generation 5 brought this issue up, and like the villainous team, if you like villain in quotation marks, was wanting to like liberate Pokemon. They wanted to like free Pokemon from humans, and it's like, oh man, they have an actual point. Like they're actually possibly the good guys. And then at the end, it's like, nope, they just want to take all the Pokemon. They just don't want anybody else to have Pokemon so that they can take over the world. And it's like, damn it, you were so close to having an actual point here.
No, that's not good for branding and stuff.
It really isn't. When you point out that your whole franchise is based on slavery, it's kind of a problem.
How do you feel about Green's little backstory there at the end?
I got mixed feelings. I don't mind necessarily the things that we learn. I just feel like we learned them way too fast. And part of it's that like the arc was coming to a close and everything, and they had to they felt like they needed to close this off to like have this tied together. But like it feels really rushed, and I really, because we find out that like as a child she was abducted by a flying Pokemon, and that actually gave her a fear of flying Pokemon, which is why she uses a Jigglypuff to fly around. Like any Pokemon that actually looks like a bird scares her. And when she finally made her way back to Pallet Town, because she's from Pallet Town too, like Red and Blue are, she was jealous that other people had gotten a chance to go out and take on the gym challenge, because like she wanted to go and take on the gym challenge too, because apparently people from Pallet Town are like very famous for being like the champions of the league challenge. She steals a Squirtle and goes off on her own to collect all the badges, although her means of doing so is stealing them from like Red as she bumps into him. So yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with this being her backstory, but it all happens in one chapter, and it all just comes out like all at once, so it doesn't feel nearly as impactful as it could have been if they'd like hinted at it along the story. Yeah,
can't say I disagree, and that pretty much is like my one main problem with the manga in general.
Yeah,
is that it's so fast paced.
Yeah,
that it never truly slows down, and so much happens so quickly. Like even though it's like for younger readers, like it's almost easy to kind of get lost with everything that happens because it's so plot heavy and so plot driven.
Yeah, there are parts that I think they do better with the pacing with. Some of the stuff with Team Rocket is paced a bit better, with them like trying to get the legendary birds and like create Mewtwo and stuff. We get to see that spread out more, but like a lot of this where it's more episodic stories, things just kind of pop up and happen, and you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this now.
And it's not a deal breaker by any means.
No.
It's a very fun and charming read, and I'm still going to continue to read it past chapter 40.
Yeah.
But the pacing is definitely the biggest detriment in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it could be a deeper, more impactful story if it kind of just let things marinate a tad.
Because they touch on some serious themes, and I kind of want to talk about.
Yeah.
One thing we've kind of danced around is that this manga is a lot darker than the anime and the games. Like they touch on some heavy shit.
That's like the first thing everybody who praises the manga says is like, this is like darker and more violent. Everybody talks about how an Arbok was cut in half, and that happens, and that's crazy violent, but that's not the only crazy violent thing that happens. Like
Pokemon die in this series.
Yeah, fairly regularly.
Yeah, like it's not like all the time happening, but like that Arbok wasn't like a trainer's Arbok. It was an evil. It was like a Team Rocket evil Arbok, but like Blue just had his Charmeleon cut that thing in half and killed it, and it's like, holy shit! Like,
yeah, and the whole chapter with the undead zombie Pokemon, like, it's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's also a lot more like child endangerment here. Like you could argue in the games there always was, because like they're taking on like criminal organizations and such. But, like, in the manga, they take a lot more time to show what that looks like. Like, when they take on the Team Rocket base in, I think, Celadon City or something, or not Celadon, one of the others, they take on the Team Rocket base, and, like, Red and his Pokemon team are nearly shot to death by Lieutenant Surge. Blue is almost choked to death by Muck. Like, these kids come very close to getting murdered by Team Rocket.
Yeah, they get hurt a lot. There's a lot of actual child endangerment in the story. I mean, it's never like crazy dark or crazy violent, but there's an appropriate amount of like genuine tension, and threat present in the story that makes it a more interesting read than, say, watching the anime where it's so episodic and so repetitive.
Yeah,
and Team Rocket in the anime, everybody loves Team Rocket because they're so goofy and over the top, but they're never a threat. They never feel dangerous. The Team Rocket in the manga, it's an actual team. It's a big team of people.
Yeah,
and they feel like a genuine threat within the narrative, which I'm so thankful for, because if the manga tried to like just do the Team Rocket thing from the anime, I don't think I would have liked it nearly as much.
No, Team Rocket here is a legitimate threat. I would argue they're like the major focus, even more so than like the Gym and League Challenge. Like the Gym and League Challenge sort of gets pushed to the side later on, and it's really focused on like how Red and some of the gym leaders are going to take on Team Rocket.
Yeah, the battles in the manga they all mostly happen more like in the wild or with Team Rocket, and barely ever in a gym
and
or a tournament.
What's great about that is that like it allows the trainers to be more active, because like this could just be like trainers telling their Pokemon what to do, just being like, "Oh, Pikachu, go use this attack," and everything. But like the trainers are actively engaged in the battles themselves. Like Red rushes in to like grab Pikachu out of the way in some of the battles and stuff. Like the trainers are taking part. They'll like try and like punch the other trainers and stuff. Like they're not just like masters commanding slaves. It's like, hey, we've got to stop these people. We've got to like actually use everything we can, and that includes ourselves.
Yeah, it's got a more. It almost has like a sort of Wild Wild West kind of feel to it at points, because you got, these lone figures, and they're walking through the land, and like they're on a journey, and then like they come across bandits or other villains or other people, and like it kind of has this like rugged sort of tone and aesthetic at some points. It's kind of that's really the different from the game or the anime.
Yeah,
it's a much more organic sort of narrative.
Yeah, another sort of dark element is the all the experimentation that Team Rocket's doing on these Pokemon, like the Eevee that we find that's like forced to switch between evolutions. And like every time it does, it goes through like this really painful transformation whenever it switches evolutions.
Yeah, that genuinely made me kind of upset. I was like, kind of like, and me, like, I'm the horror guy. I watch I watch the most gross, disturbing, disgusting stuff you can find.
Yeah.
And if I'm reading a Pokemon manga and I'm getting upset that they're torturing an Eevee, I'm just like, ah.
Yeah. There was a Gyarados that was like it basically has PTSD, because like they tortured it into being this big rampaging monster, and then they finally managed to calm it down. But even then, like later they encounter Team Rocket again, and it freaks out, and Red has to calm it down again. Yeah. And it's like, it's really sad to see these Pokemon going through like all this trauma and everything.
It definitely tugs at the heartstrings. Probably my favorite part of the manga so far is the backstory Red has with his Poliwrath.
Yeah.
It's been a couple weeks since I read the earlier chapter, so I might not have all the details remembered, but he starts drowning in like a lake or a river or something. And did he already have this Poliwag, or was it a wild?
I think he had it. He had a Poliwag, and it evolved into a Poliwhirl to save him.
Yeah. The Poliwag couldn't save him, so it like just evolved to save him. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, that's such a cool, sweet way to like use the lore of the franchise. Like,
I'm a sucker for Pokemon evolutions that have like a strong narrative reason for happening.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, that totally like won me over. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, that's so sweet and endearing.
Yeah,
and I like how I like how one of his mains is it's a Poliwhirl and a Poliwrath. Like,
yeah. He's got an interesting team. Some of them are like big name Pokemons, like you've got Venusaur and you've got Pikachu. Gyarados is pretty popular. Snorlax is pretty popular. But Aerodactyl and Aerodactyl and Poliwrath are some interesting choices because, like, I would say Aerodactyl's popular, but not like super popular. And Poliwrath is, I mean, like, it's not a bad Pokemon by any means, but it's not certainly one that you would think of as like a face of the main character that they'd use.
And like this manga made, because as a child when I was really into it, like I was pretty indifferent to that whole character, the Poliwag evolutions.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're alright. Cute kind of blue frog with a big swirly, like whatever. But like this manga like made me like a fan of that of that Pokemon in general.
Yeah.
Because like it's like one of the main Pokemon characters, and he's really fun.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Red's sort of second hand like strongman kind of backup.
His first Pokemon. I think that's what's great about also this manga is that we get to see a lot of the Pokemons not just as monsters, but also as characters themselves. Like you said, Poliwrath is very much like, oh, he's Red's oldest and closest ally, he's his friend, he wants to look out for him. The Bulbasaur is sort of like he was kind of a loner.
I love the fucking Bulbasaur so much.
I know you do. He was sort of like a loner until Red managed to like get through to him and help him like sort of come out of his shell and be a little more open with others. Pikachu probably has the most obvious one, where he was very spiteful towards Red. He was like a troublemaker and a little shit starter, and he really didn't like Red at first, but over the course of the manga, he starts developing like genuine friendship with Red, and he becomes like one of his closest and most loyal Pokemon.
This even made me like really. I was never not a fan of Pikachu. I can't say I never liked Pikachu.
Everyone loves Pikachu.
Everybody likes Pikachu, but Pikachu's been like the face of the franchise for so long, and it always bugged me that he never freaking evolved. And the relationship he has with Ash in the anime is pretty much kind of like the one he has with Red in the manga.
They do it early on in the seasons where he's kind of like a jerk and then he comes around, but like by the time later on, it's basically just like Pikachu is Ash's best friend and will do anything he wants. Like they kind of throw that out, and the manga takes a little more time to develop that, I feel like.
I feel like the manga Pikachu, whose name is Pika, that's like his name he gives himself.
All the nicknames are just like short little abbreviations, and it's cute.
I feel like whereas the anime makes Pikachu just like the really cute face of the show, like he's just a cute cuddly one, the manga Pikachu kind of retains his like sassy sort of asshole kind of attitude the whole time.
Yeah.
Like he's always got this like kind of like smug jerky smug look on his face, and the art is so cute in this freaking manga.
The art is
the way cute. Pikachu is even rounder and chubbier and like stubbier in limb than he is like in the anime, and he's just so cute. And the way that they draw Bulbasaur in the beginning, like, it makes my heart melt.
I like that they show the Pokemon in the Pokeballs too. Like you get like a transparent Pokeballs, and they're just like sitting in there.
It's so cute. I'm a big fan of the art, except the character designs are all fun.
Yeah.
Even for the humans, which when you're reading a manga about Pokemon, you're there to look at the Pokemon, but even the human characters have really fun, cute designs.
Yeah.
The only downside to the art is, I would say, when the action...
I was going to say the same thing.
When the action gets a little too intense or there's too much going on, it's kind of hard to tell what they're illustrating.
A lot of the Pokemon powers get confusing, like what's happening, and the art doesn't always convey it very clearly, like what's going on.
That's really the only drawback to it, and that's kind of a problem I've run into as I've started to read more manga in general.
Yeah.
No matter how good the art is, sometimes the action is just so dynamic you can't quite tell you're reading.
The more complicated the power system, the harder it is to convey what's happening.
But that's just kind of like a minor little quibble.
I don't know. I would say it's a considerable problem, because I do think there are points in this where it's like, what the hell's going on? I don't really understand. Like, what did that Pokemon just do to the other Pokemon? I don't think it's
undermining me. Are you undermining me?
I'm just saying. I think it is a noteworthy problem to point out because, like,
yeah. But I was just gonna say, like, for me personally, it didn't take me out too much. It was consistent, but not consistent enough for me to be like, oh, this is too annoying.
Yeah. What else should we talk about? Let's talk about Team Rocket a bit. Because we did mention how they're like more of a general threat here than they are in the anime. I love the fact that some of the gym leaders are evil. I think that's cool. Brilliant. Taking because you've got like about half the gym leaders are good guys. They're fulfilling their general role as like testing young trainers and helping out the community. I think the fact that they do a lot more of like helping the community in the manga is interesting to show just like their cultural significance beyond just like, oh, here's just a generic challenge for you to come across. But the fact that some of the gym leaders have given up their sort of like cultural role as leaders for the community to just get more power through the abduction of Pokemon and the experimentation on Pokemon, that they're trying to become like masters of the world through Pokemon. I think that's a brilliant thing. Like, you get Lieutenant Surge as a villain, you get Sabrina as a villain, you get Koga as a villain. All of them already had very, like, sort of aggressive designs that lend themselves very well to a villainous role. They're not bad guys in the original games or the anime by any means, but, like, their designs make them very, like Sabrina is a psychic type, so she can mess with people's minds. Koga was a ninja. Like, he can, like, sneak in and out and, like, assassinate people if he wants to with his Pokemon. Lieutenant Surge is, like, an army man who, like, does all this shit with, like, his Pokemon in, like, a warfare style. He basically weaponizes them. I think all of that's really brilliant, the way that they utilize gym leaders here.
Yeah, can't argue with that. And I especially like how, because it's a more condensed story, that the themes, even though, as we talked about, the the whole overarching premise of Pokemon is contradictory in nature.
Yeah.
But because of the more condensed storytelling of the manga, like the themes of, animal exploitation and experimentation and stuff, it comes through stronger.
Yeah.
In the manga, you kind of view Team Rocket as like heartless, industrialists and capitalists in a way, like pillaging natural resources to do as they will, without a care for the people or the environment that it affects. Not to get too deep with themes of in a Pokemon episode, but I mean those themes are there. Like, they're obviously there. So
I think especially the fact that, like we talked about earlier, that the trainers are like taking part in the battle themselves. They're risking their own safety to stop Team Rocket lends itself more to this theme of, like, treating Pokemon and people with respect. Because, now it's not just like, oh, I'm going to send my slave to stop your slave from doing things. It's like, I and my team of friends and partners are going to stop you from hurting these Pokemon that you've been experimenting and torturing and everything. They literally fused the 3 legendary birds together into this big monstrosity-looking thing. Like,
yeah, that was...
it's wacky.
That made me laugh out loud, not because like I was like, oh, look what they did to the legendary birds, but because it was so like mad scientist and like over the top, like horrific. I'm like, oh my god, they actually did that. Like, that's awesome.
As much as this one like is closer to the games than the anime is, it takes some really big chances on like just deviating with some of the gym leaders being evil, and hey, we're gonna merge the legendary birds together into this mad scientist shit. And we haven't even talked about Mewtwo and how like Blaine created Mewtwo with his part of his own DNA. So like,
we even get body horror in the Pokemon manga.
So he's like kind of melting whenever he's near Mewtwo. Like,
it's a pretty heavy sci-fi concept that like their like DNA is mixed and like they're connected in like this weird 1-to-1 sort of connection. And like, how did he explain it? Like, if Mewtwo like reaches like full power, like he's siphoning off like the life energy or whatever of Blaine, right?
Kinda, something like that.
And like once like that's done, like Blaine's just gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that happens. All the while, his like arm is like like this melting pile of like fleshy jello.
Yeah, it's like jiggling and everything. What I like about the Mewtwo arc, it kind of takes a side to the main Team Rocket thing, because they are trying to clone Mew. They are trying to make Mewtwo, which is a very common plot thread. They use it in the anime for the first movie and everything. But they kind of give up on Mewtwo after Blaine betrays... Blaine was a member of Team Rocket, and he betrayed Team Rocket, and like basically got rid of Mewtwo, let it out. But Blaine goes to try and destroy Mewtwo, because he's like, this was a horrific experiment that I made. This was a monster that I created. Very like Frankenstein. Like, I made a monster, now I have to fix this. And Red points out that like, you're just continuing this cycle of like hurting Pokemon that Team Rocket's doing, even though you're trying to stop that cycle. Like, instead of trying to destroy the thing that you made, maybe give it a chance. I think that's a great ending to this whole like experimentation angle that's like throughout the series.
I liked what they did with the Mew story, but I wanted more of it.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the pacing just being too quick, because these 40 chapters that they slowly build to the climax of what the whole Mewtwo thing is going to how it's going to pay off. And it's when we finally get there, it's pretty much just a chapter.
Yeah.
And then it's over. And I'm like, no, it's just,
yeah.
It wasn't quite as satisfying as I was hoping it would be. And it's probably one of the aspects that I think the anime does better than the manga.
Yeah, well, they devote like a whole movie to it.
Yeah, I like Mewtwo as a character in the story in the movie more than I like in the manga, because he's like a fully fledged character in the anime.
Right.
But in this one, he's mostly just an animal, kind of like every other Pokemon. Yeah. And the conclusion just kind of happens, and then it's over, and then they move on. Yeah. That's probably my biggest gripe with the story in the first 40 chapters.
Definitely the pacing is like kind of all over the place, because they're trying to do a serialized story about taking down Team Rocket and also taking on the gym challenge, but they fill it with very episodic stories of like, hey, this episode we're going to do like a bike race and catch Snorlax, and then hey, this episode Red and Blue accidentally switch Pokemon. So like it very much wants to bleed the two together, and because of that, some of the pacing suffers for it, because you know, time that could have been devoted to developing like, well, what about the Mewtwo cloning process? Like, what does this look like? How did that affect the gym leader who made him? Well, how does it affect Mewtwo himself? All those things kind of have to get pushed to the side, because there isn't time for it, especially when you add in the fact that the Team Rocket arc is really more about like the legendary birds here. There's much more of a focus on like, we're going to capture all three of the legendary birds and use our experiments to merge them into the ultimate Pokemon.
I would say, as much as I liked a lot of the elements of the Team Rocket arc of these chapters, I think I enjoyed the manga the most when it was just telling these fun one-off adventure stories. I think it's a lot stronger actually when it's not telling the serialized story. It feels like more episodic.
Yeah, it feels a lot more like little adventures that you would want to see in the Pokemon world, like seeing Red bonding with his Pokemon and everything. I think I would agree with that. I would say, like, even though the bigger story isn't bad by any stretch, it feels just a little more charming when it takes the time to be like, hey, we're just going to tell you a little side story about how Blue stole Green stole Red's badges, and now he has to get them back from her because she swindled him.
And because it's so fast paced, I know we keep harping on this, but
it's honestly the biggest gripe with this thing.
It has a tendency for the huge conflicts to sort of just wrap up real quick. Yeah. Like, when something gets intense, like, you're like, ooh, shit's getting real. Oh, it's over. Yeah. Like, that happened continuously. There aren't many actual battles in it that left me completely satisfied and not, like, wanting more in a bad way. Like, there's it leaves you wanting more positive, and then there's, you just wanted more negative. I felt this kind of leaned more into the negative side of wanting more than the positive side.
There were definitely parts that I felt like could have been stretched out further. I feel like certain battles we got to see enough, especially like the final battle between Red and Blue. I think they finally took the time to be like, okay, we're going to flesh out this battle to the fullest, because it takes like the whole chapter just to go through this one battle, and we get to see them using all of their different Pokemon different ways. I especially liked his like Snorlax versus Blue's Machamp. That was a fun fight.
That was a highlight. And I did like the second battle with Surge with the underwear.
Yeah.
And wasn't he using his Zapdos to siphon off like the...
He was siphoning electricity from Zapdos and using it to like power this whole room that was electrified, and it was basically frying Red and his Pokemon. But he had he had rubber underwear, and Red managed to use Razor Leaf to cut through it. And I think that's
that one was a satisfying fight.
Yeah.
So they're not all unsatisfying, but too many of them are.
The action in this manga is at its best when it's using Pokemon powers very creatively. Or a lot of the times with Red, he comes up with really clever solutions. Like he covers his Bulbasaur in like honey or something to like wake up Snorlax. I thought that was a fun thing. Like, he just, like, clever little... the way that they use Pokemon powers in the world of the Pokemon creatively, I think, is when this manga series is at its best. Because it's instead of it just being like, aw, man, my thing hit your thing real hard, it's actually showing, like, oh, this is kind of how they strategize around the abilities that they've got.
Yeah, they use the Pokemon a lot just for problem solving. Yeah. Like... I can't count how many times he used Ivysaur or Venusaur's like vines to grab something, or to make it. At one point, it makes a net, it makes a web out of his vines to catch them as they're falling off of a building.
Yeah, there's the one with Sandshrew versus some Magmars, and I think that was when he first met Giovanni, and he didn't know he was a bad guy. And Giovanni's like, "Your Sandshrews really weak. How are you going to take down these Magmars?" And the Sandshrew like digs a pit and basically like catches them in the pit because, like, it dug fast enough. Like, all the creative little ways that they get around just, like, my Pokemon's stronger than yours.
That leads into another thing I liked a lot about it is, I just mentioned Ivysaur and Venusaur. The Pokemon evolve pretty quickly in this story. Yeah. You don't have to wait forever and ever and ever and ever for them to evolve. They evolve pretty consistently throughout these 40 chapters, and although it was a bummer to see my boy Bulbasaur go, we got the whole evolution. We got Ivysaur, and then now he's a Venusaur, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Poliwhirl goes into Poliwrath, and he's this big buff dude. Yeah. And who else evolves? There's a couple more evolutions.
I think that's it for Red's team. Because he has a Snorlax, a Gyarados, an Aerodactyl, and Pikachu doesn't evolve. But we get to see...
hoping that would happen. I'm like, are we going to get a Pikachu evolution? Please!
Even in the manga, I don't think they're going to pull the Pikachu evolution.
Damn it! Give me a Raichu!
I don't remember them ever doing Raichu. At least not his Raichu. We get to see Blue's Charmander evolve into a Charmeleon, right, and then into a Charizard. What I like is that, like, Blue evolves his faster than Red, which really shows like how he's like more skilled with Pokemon than Red is. Like he's sort of ahead of him. He's always one step ahead.
And doesn't a Machoke
a Machoke
evolve into a Machamp?
And that's actually a fun little tidbit to the games because it only evolves because he goes from Blue's care into Red's care, and the only way to evolve Machoke in the games is to trade.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, Machoke and some other Pokemon they will only evolve when traded. So whenever...
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool little nod to the games then.
Yeah, so whenever he got his hands on Blue's Machoke, it evolved because it went to a different trainer.
That's another thing that I would like to add, is that this manga made me appreciate certain Pokemon that I hadn't before.
Yeah.
Like I had mentioned that I appreciate Poliwhirl and Poliwrath and Poliwag a lot more now.
Yeah.
I also like Machoke and Machamp a lot more than I used to. Like there's something about seeing them illustrated.
Yeah.
And in simple black and white with elegant lines and just being able to like just look at these images more and absorb them,
Mm-hmm.
that makes you appreciate, these characters that you've been seeing since you were a kid on a different level.
Yeah.
I think.
That and Machamp. I love Machamp just because he's this big four-armed buff dude with like a chicken beak.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's a cool dude.
He's funny looking.
And I like seeing him grapple.
Yeah. Yeah. You can really feel like the strength, especially when he's like throwing around Snorlax.
Poor Snorlax. He gets tossed around, thrown around, slammed. Like
he does a fair amount though. He's a pretty beefy boy. He like beats up that Dragonite in one chapter.
He can take it though. He's thick. He's dummy thick enough to take it.
He dummy thick. He fit thick.
I think that's pretty much all I got as far as just like diving into the meat of the story.
I will say, Professor Oak. They hint at
his mask.
Yeah, they hint at Professor Oak being more important. And I don't really remember this from the Yellow chapter, which is up next. I don't really remember if he becomes like a bigger player down the line, but like early on in the manga, like he's just this sort of like figure that is notorious in Pallet Town for being sort of an eccentric scientist. Red goes and helps him collect all these Pokemon that he accidentally released, and Oak's like, man, you've got a good heart. You've made this Bulbasaur seem to like you, which I've been having trouble with. Here's a Pokedex. Go on your adventure. So, like, the general role he has in the games. And then he comes back during the League Championships, and he goes up. First off, he's disguised. He's with just a bunch of like leather
stupidest mask ever, like the dumbest disguise ever.
I'm leather on him.
I'm like, oh, that's Professor Oak. Like, I don't know if they intended for the reader to be like, oh, that's Professor Oak or not. But like the way it's illustrated, like he's this mysterious contestant that's like he sees that red, blue, and green are all at the tournament. And he's like, good, and then like they start battling, and I'm like, that's just Oak with like a dumb face covering.
He's got like just a belt wrapped around his face.
Yeah, and then it's like he gets some feedback from a Pokemon attack, and he's like, the mask, it's slipping off.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, it's Professor Oak. I'm like, yeah, how could you not tell? He's wearing a dumb cloth X on his face, and that's it.
He goes by Dr. O too.
And he's like a stocky, beefy guy.
Oh yeah, he's fit.
I'm like, damn, Oak. No wonder you're banging Ash's mom in the anime. Like,
we also find out that he was a former champion, which is cool. I don't remember that much about the Yellow arc, but I hope that comes back up, that we find out more about like Oak as a young trainer. I think that would be cool, because he comes in with like a full team of like flying Pokemon just to mess with Green, because she's scared of flying Pokemon. And I've always thought I thought it would always be, yeah, that is pretty fucked up. It's like, haha, you have PTSD. But I always thought it would be cool in the games if you got to like battle the Pokemon professors, because here's these people who've like dedicated their lives to studying Pokemon, so surely they'd be like they'd have like some really cool, powerful Pokemon with some neat tricks.
You keep mentioning these things that make me want like cool spin-offs. Like now I want a prequel with like Professor Oak.
Yeah.
And like I want a story about the Pokemon War that you mentioned. Like that sounds fucking cool. Like let's get a awesome huge war story with Pokemon. Like that would be badass.
Pokemon's got a lot of room for experimenting with like its world building, because they've established so much already, and like there's so much room to play with. And I feel like at least in the mainline games, they really just kind of blow that by following the same formula of like, let's do the League Challenge, and you're gonna fight like one villain group that's going to try and get this mythical Pokemon. Like it's so repetitive when it's like you've got all these cool elements to the world you've created that you could totally mess around with.
Why do you think that they have such a hard time branching out? Like, as you like, it's one of the biggest media franchises in the world. It's been around for so long and has a huge fan base. How come they're not taking more chances?
There are spin-offs, obviously. I mean, it's one of the biggest media franchises in the world because they have so many different things going. They've got the main anime, they've got other mini-series of anime that they do, they've got movies that they put out, they've got the main video games, they've got spin-off video games, they have the card game, they have the merchandising stuff. And I think in terms of the mainline games, the reason that they don't change that formula is because they literally don't have to. When a Pokemon game drops, it's like the best-selling game of that year, hands down. It doesn't matter what else.
Just if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I really do, because, and you see that much more in the later generations, because, God, Sword and Shield in particular, they just got so lazy with it. Like, Sword and Shield was the first console Pokemon mainline game. Like, there had been a couple of Pokemon games on consoles before, but they weren't, like, mainline games. And, like, the hype around it was huge, because it's like, oh man, a console can handle so much more graphical detail and animation and stuff. Like, we can see the Pokemon finally, like, doing all these cool things and, like, fully animated, doing all these abilities and stuff. And, like, it was just so lazily put together. Like, the Pokemon animations were crap. The models would randomly change sizes depending on if you were, like, in a battle versus in the overworld. It's so obvious that they just cut so many corners. And it's like, you have more money than any other media franchise on Earth. And you're going to cut corners with your biggest selling, like, the main game you put out? Like, it's such horse shit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm speaking from a place of ignorance because I'm not plugged into the franchise like you are. Because it's such a huge thing, you figured they would have enough wiggle room to kind of get more ambitious with something. Like, this might exist, I don't know, but like an open world, like Pokemon game. Like, how come that hasn't happened yet?
That's
like
finally... That is finally on its way.
That's fine. Okay, so it's actually happening. Yeah. Like, I was like, that seems like such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really was a no-brainer for years, and they finally have gotten around to starting to make one called Pokemon Arceus, Pokemon Legends Arceus, something like that.
Well, that sounds cool. I will have to actually keep an eye on that to see what it's supposed to come out like.
I'm tempering my expectations, because they've released, like, an alpha gameplay trailer where it's obviously, like, this isn't going to be the final gameplay or such. Like, this will change. But, like, the way it looks is very, very basic. Like, oh, damn it, they're still just cutting corners with these animations and stuff and shitty draw distances where you don't see the Pokemon until you're, like, 20 feet away from them and they just pop into existence. But, like, that could just be where they're at in development. They may develop it much better later down the road. But, like, right now it's... I've got some problems with what I've seen so far. I love the concept of an open world Pokemon game. I think that's great, but if you're going to do an open world game like that, you've got to put the time and effort and money into making it a fully fledged open world game, because that's arguably, like, the biggest, or at least it was for the long time, like, the biggest genre of video game, and there's so many titans in that genre that if you're going to do an open world game, you've got to bring your A game.
It's got to be something wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, like we already said, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's still going strong so long and, like, keeps making money hand over fist, why would they take the chance to innovate when you know what's working is still working?
And I'm not done with Pokemon by any means. I've been disappointed with some of the more recent games, but, like, the biggest appeal of Pokemon has and always will be the fact that, like, you can collect these unique little monsters. It's the fact that they release new monsters with every generation that you can collect and train and see how they evolve and everything and what abilities they have. Like, that's the appeal of Pokemon. It's not the gameplay, it's not the lore that they've established, it's the Pokemon themselves. And as long as they keep pumping out good new Pokemon, which a lot of people will be like, there's not been any good Pokemon since the generation. It's horseshit, you know? Like, there's always at least a third of the Pokemon in each generation are good, if not great. Which sounds low, but you gotta consider that each generation also adds, like, 50 to 100 new Pokemon, so that's, like, a good 20 new Pokemon that you can love in each one, 20 to 30. So, like
Love Disc.
Yeah, like Love Disc.
And Klefki. Gotta love Klefki.
Klefki. That's a trend. The Pokemon that are just objects.
Are inanimate objects.
They're just
yeah.
objects.
we ran out of organics, so let's just use things that you find around the house.
That kind of leads into what I want to talk about next. Do we have any last major points about the manga?
Just to say that as somebody who was pretty much content with letting Pokemon be a memory of yesteryear, it's actually gotten me into the franchise again years later. So I'm happy about that.
It's got its flaws, and it's definitely targeted towards younger audiences, but I think it's definitely an enjoyable, solid part of the Pokemon universe.
Yeah, it's perfect for people like me who are completely behind the 8-ball. I'm an anomaly when it comes to my generation. I'm not a huge gamer. I maybe play a couple games a year and probably never to completion. And like the anime doesn't hold up, so here we go. We have this manga that has a tighter story. It's a bit more mature, and it's fun and it's charming, and it's perfect for people who want something just a bit more clever and smarter than the anime. And I hate knocking the anime. I know it has fans and it's still going strong, but you get more out of the manga, I think, in my opinion, story-wise, character-wise, and even theme-wise.
It also does more to like deviate from the games, despite being closer to them. Like the anime, while the anime is technically more different from the games in that we follow someone who isn't technically Red, we follow Ash, and like Team Rocket's more incompetent and everything like that. It's still very much just the plot of, let's take on the gym challenge. Like, that's every season of the anime. Whereas with this manga, it's like the gym challenge kind of took a back seat to the whole Team Rocket thing. And in fact, the gym leaders were villains. Like, that's a big deviation from the games and the anime, which I really appreciated that. It brought something new to the table.
So yeah, final thoughts. If you want to recapture some of that childhood nostalgia, but you might not know where to start with the games, or you don't want to, be disappointed that the anime doesn't hold up to your adult eyes, pick up the manga. You'll probably like it.
Yeah. Okay. We're doing a new segment here on Tongue and Geek called Nerd Ethics, where we explore some of the ethical ramifications of the story worlds that we look into. We've already talked a lot about how there's basically no justification for the Pokemon world system of, catching and enslaving and forcing Pokemon to battle. The only one, actually, I do kind of want to bring this up. The only possible explanation I can think of that would morally justify all this is if it is an actual survival necessity for humanity. And there is maybe evidence of this, because in all of the games, the cities and stuff aren't very large. They're very smaller population. There's a lot more wilderness in the Pokemon world, which sort of implies that there's a lower, human population in the Pokemon world than there is in the human world, in, the real world. Also, just how, incredibly dangerous Pokemon are. Not just in their powers, because they have freaking the ability to shoot lightning and fire and stuff, but also in how aggressive they are. Anytime you step into waist-high grass, you are going to get attacked. Man, woman, child, you will be attacked by a Pokemon. They are hyper-aggressive. So, if this whole, society of capturing Pokemon in devices that make them more docile and subservient to humans is a survival tactic, then maybe there's a moral justification for it. Maybe human civilization is we have to find a way to tame Pokemon in order to survive. So we've created these Pokeballs that make them docile towards us, but maybe also they're still aggressive and we need an outlet for that aggression, so we're going to let them fight each other.
Even still, that's kind of dubious.
It's still messed up. It's a very dark world, but then there would at least be some moral justification for we're enslaving and forcing animals to fight. If it was literally that, or the human race will be destroyed, then there's maybe an argument to maybe it's okay. That's just one thing I want to posit. I want to posit a different moral quandary for us: eating Pokemon.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing about the Pokemon world. In earlier stories, in the manga here even, and in earlier episodes of the anime and the games, it's established that real-world animals also exist in the Pokemon world. Like, there are
Which
real
always
animals.
makes me laugh.
Yeah. There are, like, they show, like, real fish in the anime. There's an episode of the anime where, like, a mongoose shows up and scares an Ekans because mongoose eats snakes or something. So it's never clearly explained what the difference between a regular animal is to a Pokemon. But, they sort of move away from that later on. They don't really mention real-world animals compared to Pokemon in later generations and stuff. But if we're assuming that this world is filled with these creatures, is it ethical to eat them? And more specifically, which Pokemon are okay to eat?
Considering that this is a world where it is, as we've already established multiple times, A-okay to enslave, battle, and just basically exploit these creatures, I guess it's totally fine to eat them.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean,
they eat each other.
Yeah. It'd be kind of stupid to even in universe for the characters to draw the line of like, you're eating that Magikarp?
Yeah.
How dare you? Like, why though? Why? How dare I? Like,
here's the thing though. Where's the line? Because you get Pokemon that are like Tauros and stuff that are just like big cows and things, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can see that being like a food animal. What about
and then the more rare ones?
What about a fucking Hitmonchan? A Hitmonchan is just a dude with boxing gloves. Can you eat
the humanoid one?
Yeah, can you eat a Mr. Mime?
Hitmonchan's a thumb with like springy arms and legs.
Yeah. Like, can you eat a Machoke? It's basically just a dude.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, we're getting into some moral quandaries here.
Then there are Pokemon that are supposedly like even more intelligent than humans. Like Kadabra's Pokedex entry says it has like an IQ of 1,000. That makes it like a super intelligent sentient being. Can you eat a Kadabra?
I guess it's kind of just like our world where like we arbitrarily say that like, oh, we can farm and eat these animals, but we can't these animals because we have a different kind of attachment to our house pets than we do cattle.
Yeah.
So, like, even though Mr. Mime can help you with your chores and give you some loving, like Axe's mom.
Yeah.
You can't eat him, but you can fish a Goldeen and a Magikarp out of the river and garnish it with some Bellsprout. And you'd probably be fine.
I'm just imagining, because, like, there's such an emphasis in all of the Pokemon stuff that, like, every Pokemon, no matter how basic it is, has at least some level of intelligence and empathy that you can connect.
Like real animal.
Yeah, like, you can form a bond with it. Like, there's no, like, totally just stupid Pokemon that, like, has no... Like, a Magikarp, as dumb and silly as it is, can still bond with a person. You can't really bond with a fish, like a catfish or something in the real world, but like just the idea of like a trainer being like, good work Pikachu, you did great today, and then he like pulls out a Tauros burger and starts eating it in front of that Pikachu. And Pikachu's just like, we just battled a trainer with one of those 5 minutes ago, what are you doing? Pika. Just like, where's
somebody roasting just a giant Lapras over a fire, just selling all just.
That's why they're almost extinct. Oh god! Because
just a Dratini skewer, just.
Yeah. Mewtwo's got a mix of every Pokemon's DNA. I bet he's delicious.
You ever had a Cubone? The sadness really marinates the meat.
Oh god. It's just so weird to think about. And then there are Pokemon later on in later generations that are literally based on food. There is an ice cream cone ones, right? Pokemon. Yeah. And a cotton candy one. And like, did the food become sentient? Is that how it became a Pokemon? Or, like, are there Pokemon animals out there that just develop the traits of food as a defense mechanism? What's the defense mechanism? To get eaten?
I would probably eat a few Pokemon, but if anybody tries to detach a bulb off the back of Bulbasaur and like have it like an artichoke heart or one of those things, like I will murder those people. Like, you do not do that.
Oh man, imagine like an executor, like the big palm tree looking one, just popping off one of the like heads and eating into it like a pineapple or something. Just bite into it.
You crack a freaking Metapod in half and just fry it up like an egg, just all the juicy insides.
Oh god, the grass type Pokemon bring up whole other issues. It's like, are they more plant than animal? Like, if I try and eat something off of a tree, what's the odds of it just being a Pokemon? Like,
that reminded me of one of my favorite parts of the manga when Red was about to be digested whole by a Victory Bell.
Oh yeah,
that was fucking awesome.
That was.
I'm like, yes, this is hardcore.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, there's so many questions, because like it's never clearly explained what a Pokemon is or where they come from. They're just, every monster in the world is considered a Pokemon, no matter how different they are from anything else. So like the idea of like eating them, like, where's the line? Like, which Pokemon are okay? Is it just the intelligent ones? They all have some level of intelligence.
Yeah, and electric type, like, it's a Voltorb and like a Magnemite or whatever. Like,
are they even organic?
Like, yeah, are they organic? Is there like a living thing, like tissue under there, that like metallic looking surface?
Does it have organs? Is there blood in there?
What the fuck is a Porygon? Like,
a Porygon's a digital Pokemon. It's a Digimon, basically. What does that mean?
Yeah, but like, it's in our world now, so like.
It's so,
what are the rules?
What are the rules? Which Pokemon can I eat?
There are ghost Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, can't eat a Gengar, can't eat a Ghastly.
Oh god, are ghost Pokemon actual ghosts of Pokemon, or are they people that die and become Pokemon?
Yeah, like, because they're ghost Pokemon, but like, if they were never alive, then they're not ghosts. Then they're something else. They're a spirit. They're a demon. They're a yokai. They're something. Yeah.
If I kill my Snorlax, and eat it, will it come out as a Ghastly? Is that a way to get? Is that a way to get a Ghastly without having to catch one? You just kill one of your Pokemon and eat it first.
And what about Muck and Grimer? Like, are they like?
They're just like toxic sludge.
You definitely can't eat toxic sludge. But Muck and Grimer are sentient beings, so, like...
everything's alive in the Pokemon world.
Are they, like, poisonous animals that you can't eat? Like, or are they just, like, matter that has been created, like, in some capacity to, like, have sentience at some point?
I think it's just, like, horrifying Toy Story rules, where, like, if you put enough... like, mental energy into something being alive, it becomes alive, kind of like we find out in Toy Story 4 with, like, the Sporky guy. Like,
oh, God. Toy Story 4, that's a rabbit hole.
Oh, boy.
What an existentially sad movie that movie was.
What is the point of our existence?
What other weird-ass Pokemon would be...
What's the weirdest... What is the most unethical Pokemon to eat?
And... let's just go there. Like, I've already made 2 jokes about banging Pokemon. What's the ethics of banging a Pokemon? Like, if they have intelligence that is comparable to humans, that brings up the question of consent. Can they consent to interspecies love with a human? Can your Mr. Mime give you oral pleasures? Can your Jinx give you oral pleasures?
I feel
what about your Kadabra?
Like your Kadabra and your Alakazam, they're like super geniuses. They're smarter than you are. If anything, they have the question of like, if I breed with this human, is it bestiality?
Good point. Like, and we can't be the only one. Like, this is definitely not the first time this conversation.
No.
I guarantee you the creators of the franchise have had this conversation before.
Yeah. It's just wild to think about how many, like, problematic elements there are to, like, if Pokemon can be eaten, like, which ones are acceptable for that. You basically have to draw a line of, like, which Pokemon is an animal and which Pokemon is a sentient creature. And that line is very blurry.
I guess it just has to kind of be, like, our Earth rules. Like, It's cool to eat these animals over here. It's cool to hunt these animals over here. Not cool to do it with these ones.
Yeah.
I guess that makes the most sense.
But in our world, it's not cool. I'm going to crack open a Blastoise, have some turtle soup.
You got to take out the guns, because that's not organic material. But on our Earth, you cannot have sex with animals. That is a faux pas.
Yeah, it's a faux pas.
Do not do it.
It's awkward.
So it stands to reason that you can't have sex with any Pokemon either. But who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? It certainly happens.
Tell you what, we will get in touch with the... What's his name? The creator.
Oh,
Tip of my tongue.
Named Satoshi Tajiri.
Yes, we'll get in touch with him and ask him the hard, dirty questions.
Let's just ask Google. Can you have sex
your Google searches are already fucked.
Oh, it seems like Gardevoir's okay. And
oh no,
all the others.
Well, I mean, Mewtwo's tail kind of don't look like a tail sometimes, if you know what I'm saying.
It starts in the front. It starts in the front. Let's get into review.
And he's got those bulbous fingertips. He's got those perfectly spherical fingertips.
Imagine one of those in your ass.
Just pop it in there.
Yeah. Let's stop talking about having sex with Pokemon now and move on. The internet's done plenty of that for us.
Stop talking about this. I'm getting too worked up.
Yeah, I can only get so erect.
Be monetized.
We've not even monetized yet, and now we never will be. Review! Yay! So, on Goodreads, the collector's edition of the Pokémon Adventures, which is this whole section, the first 40 chapters, it's got a 4.4 out of 5. People really like it on Goodreads.
Really high.
Yeah, people really like it. Granted, they probably go into it knowing what they're getting into, but even I went through and looked at some of the other, just like the broken up volumes, and I don't think there was anything below like a 4.1.
For Goodreads, that's really high. Like, I feel like I can never find any, no matter how popular it is, like, never anything is like above a 4.1. So for something to be a 4.5, that's nuts.
I think with comics and manga like this, especially ones that are connected to larger franchises, you've got an audience that already knows what they're kind of getting into when they go in to review it. I don't think it's not like a book where like somebody might pick up a book and be like, hey, what's this like? And then they'll read it and they'll be like, oh, that was shit. It's like, you know what you're going to get into when you get into a Pokemon manga. First review is from Grant. Grant says, instead of having the child-friendly image, Pokémon Adventures decides to delve into some pretty sensitive themes, such as PTSD and emotional maturity being at the forefront. 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah? We talked about that.
We did. I don't want to oversell it, because when I was looking up the manga and like reviews and video essays and stuff, so much is made of sort of the more intense violence and more intense themes, and they're there, but I don't want to oversell them.
No, this is still very much like a young reader's all ages read.
Yeah, it's like a 7 and up level kind of read. Like, if like you're thinking about reading this and you're like, oh my god, this is like a dark and gritty Pokemon universe, like,
no, it's not.
No, it's not that. It's just emotionally intelligent enough not to treat its audience completely, stupid.
Now, if they had given like 3 more pages of the Arbok like slowly dying and like bleeding out on the floor and like begging for its master to come save it and being abandoned, then maybe we could put it up.
Yeah, it's strictly PG rated.
Yeah. This next one is from Rahard's Husko. I am also a fan of the simple, cutesy character designs, but I hope Mato refines their framing and action shots over time, because the battles sometimes struggle to be readable or exciting to see for me personally. 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, that's a criticism we had as well.
That's everything we said. The character designs are adorable, but the action can get too jumbled and muddy.
Yeah, I really love this next one.
Valid.
I really love this next one. This one's from Julia. My son read this to me in the car. I have now banned him from reading comic books to me in the car because I have no idea what was going on. As an example, this was how he read to me page 50. Bulbasaur, go! Bompon Margle Murgle P? Murgle Murgle Murgle, ooh, a Pokemon! Murmur, ah! Parents, learn from my mistakes. 3 out of 5 stars.
That's hysterical because you can't read a manga or a comic to somebody because half the thing is visual.
Yeah. And the idea of just like a 5-year-old sitting there with this book in his hands, like reading this to the parent while she's in like heavy traffic and she's being like, "That's like great, sweetie."
Gripping the steering wheel just to grit teeth, like, "Oh, how wonderful, honey."
And it's just nonsense words, just sound effects and everything. That's hilarious.
That reminds me when I was on a road trip with Erica, in 2012, they were reading 50 Shades of Grey out loud in the car. And it was funny at first.
Yeah.
But they just kept reading it, and they kept reading it, and they kept reading it. And I was just like, can we not read this anymore? Can we take a break? And they're like, no, we gotta finish. I'm like, God damn it. Please. Stop.
It's not
But they
good.
didn't stop. They just kept going. What's that, sweetie? Erica says, you have to explain we were hate reading it. Like, yeah, like you were, but like you hate read it for hours. Like, that doesn't seem like hate reading. That almost seems like you were enjoying it after a certain point in time.
Riku Sayuj says, this one confused and frightened me. In the world of Pokemon, every creature except humans have powers and are magical. The only role of the humans is to take care of them and help them achieve their potential. The humans are reduced to serving the animals. Of course, just like any subversive story, it has the layer on top to make it palatable, where it seems like the magical creatures are loyal to humans. Look within that layer, and it's a world of creatures as masters, with a whole human society constructed in their service, finding meaning in that service. 3 out of 5 stars.
What?
I don't know. It scares me.
I don't know if that's like somebody just trying to be really deep or just somebody shitposting.
I can't. It feels like somebody who was on acid reading this.
I'm leaning towards somebody just trying to be deep and failing, because who's gonna go shitpost Goodreads for the first volume of the Pokemon manga? Like, okay, that was a review.
It unsettled me a little bit seeing that. Fucking John Hairns says in all capital letters, unrealistic. 1 out of 5 stars.
Unrealistic.
Unrealistic. That is your only criticism.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it is, but like we're not in our world.
Yeah,
fantasy.
Yeah. There's this genre called fantasy. It's been around since forever, where things that can't happen do.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry that you couldn't enjoy Pokemon. It's just not for you.
Animals don't breathe fire. Ugh.
Children don't wander the countryside without adult supervision.
Yeah. This one's from Mara. Mara says, the only thing that makes me a bit sad is that most of the characters feel pretty one-dimensional. Red just wants to become a Pokemon master. Green, the guy, is smug as frick for most of the time and thinks he's better than Red. And Blue is mostly a con artist and thief. 3 out of 5 stars. They got the Red and Blue from a different translation, so when they were referring to Blue, they meant the girl.
I mean, yeah, it's valid.
Yeah.
Fair. I don't think it's as big a problem as they do, but
no, I think we
can't really argue that point.
We established they're very much trope characters, but they're fun trope characters. They're executed well enough,
and I think a certain degree of hedging expectations is needed with this kind of thing.
Yeah,
not to say that you should just like go in specifically with dumbed down expectations, but go in with expectations that you're reading a Pokemon story.
Right. Yeah. One specifically targeted at children. It's going to have to be more basic with its characters and themes. This one's from Troy Zahair. My favorite parts are usually the less high-stakes ones. Red meeting Yellow near the end of this book was adorable, and you could feel his innate ability to be a mentor there. It was cute and showed us a side of Red that we usually hear about but don't see super often. The League was also a good example of low-stakes battling that was fun to watch. I love the callbacks to them growing up and showing how Blue and Red learned from each other. It was a great full circle feeling that I appreciate. Not to mention Green's battles with Sabrina and later Dr. O. Her ingenuity is so fun, and I love how brilliant she can be while remaining upbeat and sneaky. 4 out of 5 stars. Kind of what we said earlier, we think like the lower stakes stuff is the better parts of this manga.
Yeah, a lot of these reviews you picked out ended up mirroring a lot of our own thoughts. That's fun.
Yeah, that's nice for once. To not have just shit heels in the review section. Except for fucking John Hairns with his unrealistic.
I'm sorry, John. I don't know who hurt you, but
a wizard killed my dad. So I guess we'll get into recommendations now. Do you have any recommendations? Because I've got a few.
Oh, geez. I don't know. Honestly, nothing comes to mind.
I've got some Pokemon stuff that I'd like to recommend. That's not like the mainline games or anime. I don't want to shit on the mainline games. A lot of them are some of my favorite games. Like I said, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's a remake of the original Gen 2 games. I love that one to death. So if you've got a DS or you want to pick up a DS, that one I'd definitely recommend. If you're looking for games outside of the main series that you want to try because you're kind of sick of this whole just gym leader, villainous organization, legendary Pokemon formula, the Pokken Tournament game, which was originally on Wii U and then re-released on the Switch. It's more of a traditional fighting game with Pokemon that you play as. That one's a lot of fun if you're a fan of, it kind of switches between 3D and 2D fighting styles mid-game, which is an interesting mechanic. That one's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I'm not great at fighting games in general, so I can't really compare it to other fighting games, but it's a good one. I really enjoy it. I like playing as they have Pikachu and Pikachu Libre, which is like a luchador Pikachu, which is great. Pokken Tournament is one. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games are really popular. In those, you play as Pokemon themselves, and it's in an alternate Pokemon world where Pokemon talk and have their own little society and everything. And I think in all of them, you are somehow a human that comes to the Pokemon world and is transformed into a Pokemon.
I've never heard of these games.
Yeah, they're pretty popular spin-offs, and basically all you do is you go into these various dungeons and you have to save Pokemon from dangerous traps or bad Pokemon and stuff. And they're just cute, fun little side games with some differing mechanics, and you can build a team of adventurers there. They're fun. I played the one on the 3DS, which was, I think, Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon. I really like that one. I played a little bit of the remake of the original Pokemon Rescue Team DX on the Switch. It was pretty fun. I haven't played through it yet, but it was pretty good. If you just want a game where you look at Pokemon and enjoy them sort of interacting in their world, Pokemon Snap just got a remake, or I guess it's a new version, a new game entirely. It just was released on the Switch. All you literally do in Pokemon Snap is just ride through these Pokemon environments and take pictures of them as they interact with each other, and some of them will be eating, or some of them will be chasing things, or they'll do little dances and stuff, and you just take pictures as them as you go through on a little safari. It's a cute little game. If you're looking for stuff to watch in the Pokemon series, but you're kind of tired of the anime, the Detective Pikachu movie we mentioned is actually based on a game, but I found the game to be very much just a very simplistic children's puzzle game, kind of dull. The movie's a lot of fun. It's got some really great world building. It feels very much like it takes place in the world of Pokemon, and Ryan Reynolds is always a riot. He's basically a PG-13 version of Deadpool in this movie.
Pikachu.
Yeah, coming out of a Pikachu, which makes it even funnier. It's got I really love the visuals. They do a great job of translating the Pokemon into CGI versions of themselves. And
it has Bulbasaurs.
And it has Bulbasaurs, which is Tyler's favorite. So definitely check out Detective Pikachu if you haven't. There are 2 Pokemon anime I would recommend. Pokemon Origins is a 4-episode miniseries that follows the adventures of Red through his adventures in Kanto. So it's just it follows sort of the plots of the games, but it's really well animated. It's a really good quick breakdown of the adventures in the original Gen 1 games, Red and Blue. And then there's Pokemon Generations, which is sort of a little, I don't even really know how to, it's a clip show of each episode's only 5 minutes long, and it will take random events in the Pokemon series, major story events from the games, and flesh them out a bit more and give you fully animated scenes. There's one from Gen 3 where they go into space and fight Deoxys, and There's one in, I think, Generation 2, where the son of the Team Rocket leader, Giovanni, like meets up with Giovanni and like talks to him about being a Pokemon trainer and everything. So it just does all these little things to sort of like expand on the lore of the Pokemon world. Pokemon Generations is available, I think, entirely on YouTube on like the official Pokemon channel. So if you want to check that one out, that's totally free on YouTube. I guess that's about all of my recommendations in terms of Pokemon. Those are just some spin-offs and things that they have that kind of break away from the established formula. So if you're looking for stuff that's Pokemon related, but you don't want to do like the main anime or the main games, I definitely recommend those.
I do have a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's an Instagram account called Bulbasaur Propaganda. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is just a page that is a complete love letter to Bulbasaur. It's got wholesome memes and just fun art and like cute little like clips and stuff from like the anime and stuff like that. It's if you're like me and you need Bulbasaur Propaganda in your life, follow the Instagram account Bulbasaur Propaganda. You will not be disappointed.
Is that all one word, or is there an underscore or something?
It's Bulbasaur Propaganda.
Okay. All right. Well, we just plugged somebody. Maybe they'll be following the show after this. Need to
yeah, that'd be cool.
Tag them in the next episode when we release this episode.
I mean, they have over 120,000 followers, so they can put us on the map.
They would. They'd throw us in there. Is that everything? Any final thoughts on the manga or any other recommendations or anything?
Without repeating myself, I don't have any final thoughts.
All right. Well, Tyler is scared of numbers. He thinks that they are horrible monsters that are going to come and destroy the world. But I love numbers. I love randomly assigning numbers to things. So I'm proud to give Pokémon Adventures Tongue & Geek's first ever 4 out of 6 Pokeballs.
All right. Awesome.
I guess that's it for this one. Thank you all for joining us for Tongue & Geek. And remember, you can't get back the time you spent listening to us.